Hi, I'm Roy from Elementor, and today we're focusing on a core pillar of the Atomic Editor version 4, components. So when we looked at how people were building real websites, we kept seeing the same thing. Important sections like call to actions, banners, or feature blocks were copied or duplicated across pages. And every time something needed to change, it meant finding all those sections and then updating them one by one or coming up with complex workarounds. Very repetitive. But at the same time, we also knew that locking everything wasn't an option either, because content still needs to change per instance, right? Well, components were designed to solve that friction. Components are reusable layout blocks that stay consistent across your site, while still allowing controlled flexibility where it actually makes sense. And this only works because of the new Atomic architecture. Components aren't an add-on, they're a core building block of version 4. Let's build one together and see how it all works in action. I'm going to build a simple content card component for my featured works. Nothing fancy, an image and some text elements. Of course, I'll use variables and classes so I'm within the design system and everything stays scalable. Okay, this looks good. Now I'll right-click the container and turn it into a component. We're automatically taken into component edit mode. This is where I define what should stay consistent everywhere the card appears. Clicking publish here will save the component. I can also exit the edit mode and click publish to save the page together with the component. All my existing components are saved here in the Components tab. Now I'll drag the component into multiple places across my site. So that's the surface level of components, kind of like a template. But now, let's see the magic when we decide what should actually be editable per instance. Back in edit mode, I'll expose a few content properties: the image file, the heading text, and the paragraph text. I'll name them clearly and group them so it's easy to understand later. Now let's switch hats for a sec. Let's pretend I'm a client and the site was just handed over to me. As a client or an editor or basically anyone with access who is not the admin, I can now safely update the content without any risk of breaking the design. Here as a client or editor, when I select the component instance, I can change only the exposed values, while the rest stays completely locked. So I can't touch the layout, the spacing, or the styles at all. Those controls simply aren't available to me. All I see are the content properties that were intentionally exposed: the text and the image. So now all the pages have the same components but different content. This is where components really shine for team workflows and client handoffs. A helpful way to think about components is that you're not designing a section, you're actually designing a rule. You decide what stays consistent and what's allowed to change. Structure and styling usually belong in the component because that's what keeps a site coherent over time. But content is where flexibility belongs, and exposed properties are how you control that. So now let's take this one step further. The site is live, handed over to the client. My content card component appears across multiple pages, and the client already made his content changes. But now the client is going through a rebrand, so they want 3 things. First, they want a small design update, new brand colors, and a new font. Second, they want us to update the button text site-wide. And third, in the cards, they want to add an additional small piece of text to give more info, something that wasn't planned originally. This is where things used to get difficult, but not anymore. Starting with the button, they wanted to update the button text, but didn't want to manually go through every instance themselves. Because it's a component, I can easily update the text in one go. I'll also update the font and color along the way. That I can easily do by just updating my variables, so changes will happen site-wide. Done. All my buttons are updated, as well as the general colors and font. Now for the third request. The client wants to add another text element, but they also want to be able to change it themselves. This is where components really show their flexibility. As an admin, I go back into component edit mode, and I add the text element into the layout once. Then I expose a property for it, name it, and place it in the right group. Now when I switch to the client view, I suddenly have more to control. I can edit that new text per instance, but I still can't touch the layout, spacing, colors, or typography. This is what I mean when I say components are built for real projects and real workflows. You can launch early, you can change direction later, and you can decide over time how much control to hand off. That's the real test of a system. Not just how fast it is to build, but how safely it lets you change when things evolve. And that's exactly what version 4's components are designed to handle. But actually, we used components for even more sections on this site. The hero section is a component, so each page has a different image and text. Also, this section is a component, and this one. Really, you can do anything with components. It opens up new possibilities for reusable, scalable website building, empowering you to work faster and smarter. If you currently don't see components or other version 4 atomic features on your site, first, make sure you update to the latest Elementor version. Then, in the WordPress admin, go to Elementor, Editor, Settings, Version 4, and click Activate. So, that's it for today. Make sure to activate version 4, try out components, and let us know what you think in the comments below. I'm Roy from Elementor, and I can't wait to see what you create next.